Hi, Mike Jacobi here, inviting you to join us again for Jazz Tonight as we kick off the 2015 season. This year, the Summer of Sinatra, dedicated to old Blue Eyes, celebrating his 100th birthday. Each week, we'll be bringing you a new artist that's appearing in town, look behind the scenes and find out what they've got going on in the recording studio and find out what else is going on live in their lives. Jazz Tonight, right here on KCAT.
Captain's Log, Day of Discovery. Today, our junior crew members declared their independence. While the young cadets explored uncharted territory, the Admiral and I discovered the Fountain of Youth. Later, we were treated to a royal banquet. And after a brief skirmish with pirates, we celebrated with cannon fire.
Disney Cruise Line. When it comes to pleasing everyone, the difference is Disney.
Hello and welcome to Jazz Tonight. I'm Michael Jacobi, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz and host of Raising the Standards on KSCO Radio in Santa Cruz. Jazz Tonight, of course, is a production of Los Gatos Music and Arts, and we're continuing our year-long series of a tribute to Frank Sinatra on his 100th birthday. Delighted to have a couple of guests joining us this week. Clairdee, who is there, you get Billy, you get Sarah, you get Dinah, all the one names, Clairdee. No last name. That's it. And my friend Mads Tolling, who's nice enough, who's dressed like he's at a World Cup game for Denmark.
Exactly, yeah.
Nice you to dress up as casual.
Yeah,
Wednesday.
I know. That's right, Casual Wednesday.
And I'm delighted you guys here. First of all, Mads, some buddies of yours opened the season for us, the International String Trio.
Right.
And the column I wrote, I was saying, this is our 13th year, and this is the first time we've had strings. And coincidentally, here we now with another jazz violinist joining us and yourself, and we're delighted that you're here.
The violinists, the string players are taking over, apparently,
They are.
in Los Gatos. Yeah.
Well, they're so easy to keep unplugged. Hey, tell me a little bit about growing up in Denmark, and was there a lot of music in the house?
There was a lot of music in the house. My parents, they're not professional musicians themselves, they're music lovers. My mom would get up every morning with my sister and I at about 6:30 a.m., play piano while we were playing our violins. My sister is a couple years younger, and we both played violin and grew up playing. I started when I was 6 years old.
You started with the violin?
Started with the violin, kind of along with piano too, And so that was kind of how I grew up. My dad is a saxophone player, has a lot of love for jazz. My mom is more classical, is a good vocalist and plays piano. So it was a perfect combination for me with the violin, and then getting into jazz eventually with my dad, my dad's influence on me.
Yeah. Now, I remember I asked Elvis Joe once, you obviously, when you were younger, sang in the church, and she said no. So I've always been very careful to ask that question. Did you sing in the church at all when you were at?
I did, but we also sang at school in the choirs, and I actually was a string player as a child. I started off with violin, then viola.
Oh, really?
I played piano, and I love strings.
But you sang in the Episcopal choir as well. Probably not Episcopal.
The AME church. Actually, it was.
Oh, no, really? What are the odds?
Methodist Episcopal
Really?
Church. Yes.
Good for you.
It was fun.
Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Denver.
Okay.
One of 8 kids.
Really?
I'm
Which
number 6.
one?
I'm
Number 6.
6. Mm-hmm.
They'd pull off with that number to pick you up. I mean,
They
you
thought
remember
I
the
was-
first
They
one.
thought they were done.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Here I
right.
came.
That's right. Who did you see that girl before? How about you folks in the business or
No,
musicians?
my father was a chef. My mother played piano and sang.
Okay.
And she was determined that all of her children would learn to play an instrument and to sing. So, of course, we had to sing in church every Sunday morning. But we also sang at school.
Would I be wrong if the phrase "like it or not" was included in that remark?
Yes. There was no option. That was
No,
not
Mom,
an
I think
option.
I'll pass. I don't think so.
I'm sleeping in, Mom.
What's great, but this creative background, your dad being a chef as well. Yeah, that's neat. How did you two hook up?
Well, I mean, the first time we met was through a mutual friend, Stuart Brynan, who's in lives in Oakland, is a photographer.
Amazing photographer.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we first met at his party. And I was playing, and you were playing, and we said, "Oh, that was fun, you know. Let's get together another time."
I've been looking forward to working with Mads for a long time, and we would see each other periodically and say, "Excuse me, we got to get together. We got to get together." And here we are.
Finally, it was a good,
It's only
perfect
6 years
occasion
ago.
for it. I know, that's right.
Now,
It's been a few years.
jazz violin and that sound, it seemed as though there was Django, and then there was a long time, you know, that sound, and then a long time in between, for Grappelli and Jean-Luc Ponty.
Yeah.
It seems to be more prevalent now. Do you find that?
I do. I find that more, and I think there's just been a little bit of a kind of a disconnect between the violin is supposed to be classical,
Right.
and it's supposed to, or maybe it's supposed to be fiddle too.
Yeah.
But the jazz kind of falls in between. People are not sure. Oh, that's not supposed to be, you know, what you're supposed to do. That's saxophone, right?
What's the difference between a violin and a fiddle? The music?
The difference is that on a violin you put strings on a violin. On a fiddle you put strangs on it.
I just walked right into that, didn't I?
You did. I was prepared. Yeah.
Strength!
Strangs.
That's great.
So that's the main difference. Pretty much sums it up.
I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
Well, that begs the question, of all the classical instruments, and so many have crossed over to become jazz instruments, which instrument has it? And I'm going to guess the French horn.
There's
I don't
actually
hear a lot of
horn
French
player.
horn jazz.
Yeah, there's a guy in
Yeah.
L.A.
And there's
there?
a guy in New York.
Really?
Mark
Yeah.
Taylor, yes.
And
That's pretty cool.
and do you know the bassoon is another one where people might say, oh, not, but Paul Hansen,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Bay
right.
Area, and,
That's
and
right.
there's some other guy, Michael Rabinovich. So it's funny that most instruments that are typically classical have been sort of entered the jazz world at one point.
Yeah, early influences for you. Now, your mom was a piano player and a singer?
Yes.
Gospel, or did she sing pop?
Everything. Well, she played primarily, when she was growing up,
Boogie
she
woogie.
did a lot of boogie. She did.
Did she?
She was great at it.
Yeah.
She was really good. But we listened to so many things when I was growing up, from classical music to Elvis Presley to Motown to rock. We listened to everything. But as far as vocal influences early on, I would say probably Roberta Flack
Yeah.
as a kid. It wasn't until college or after college I really, really was introduced to jazz vocalists like Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday and Carmen McRae.
You know, jazz vocalists as a group, not unlike the Great American Songbook, the further you study, the more you discover people that you had no idea. You know, and my God, all of a sudden voices come out of nowhere. And with the songbook, all of a sudden you find a Gershwin you didn't know existed.
Oh my
There's a
gosh.
great joy in that.
I love it.
You know my friend Paula West?
Yes.
Paula's a dear friend, and she found the Gershwin tune "Looking for a Boy," which is just
Isn't
a
it a great tune?
wonderful tune. Nobody'd heard it.
I love the Gershwins, and I
Yeah.
love Paula too.
Yeah, she's a wonderful lady. So tell me, Mads, how did you get to, obviously you're going to say you made a left turn at London, but how did you get from Denmark here? What was...
Yeah, well, I always wanted to study jazz where jazz was sort of
So
born.
you were playing
know?
jazz when you're 12 or 13. You went...
I started, the way I got into jazz was my dad handed me a cassette tape of Miles Davis. And we were actually traveling around the world for 7 months. My parents took me out of school, my sister and I out of school. And we traveled around all over the world, mostly third world countries, to kind of show us how it's like around the world. And it was an
Great deal.
incredible
That's
opportunity. Yeah,
fantastic.
it was amazing. And I'll never forget it.
Surprised you didn't get to Denver. No, I'm kidding.
I didn't make it to Denver. We made the most American we made was Disneyland. So that was one.
There's a
like-
real
That was
third world
like an
country.
opulent. That
That's
was the
close
most
enough.
opulent, strangest things because we
Guadalajara.
had come to we were in Indonesia in this deserted island where we were for months, and we also brought homework, so we were studying homework every day,
Okay.
speaking German and stuff. We were in Burma. I mean, some places
Really?
that were.
Wow.
That is totally...
I mean, it's hard to get to,
And
because
how old
it
were
was
you?
14.
Now, did you learn English in Denmark?
I did, yeah. You
You
start
took
about-
English in school.
Yeah, you start about when you're 11 years old there, fairly early. And then it helped being on a trip like that, we kind of get to use it. And yes, and didn't go to Denver, unfortunately.
so-
But Washington D.C.
That
and
was
New
a
York.
total cheap shot.
Yeah.
So
Why do you think I live
your
here?
dad.
Yeah. So
So
back
your dad
to the
gives you a
story.
cassette of miles.
Yeah, exactly. So he gave me a cassette of Miles, and I was sold. Man, I was just like, that's the coolest thing ever. I don't know what grabbed me because it's not a typical 14-year-old's kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and
to
it's
listen to.
also not violin or related. I
Right,
mean,
exactly.
So
And
that's
that-
really interesting that you took that
Yeah.
sound and said,
Because I was way into classical music. I mean, I was on the trajectory of becoming a classical musician professionally. So at that point, I thought, oh, that's a trumpet. I'm not going to be able to do that. So I didn't think about it too much. I got back to Denmark and I kept playing classical music. Then eventually I actually heard Grappelli. I also heard my countryman Sven Asmussen in concert. And so when I heard those two, I realized this is possible to do. There's a way. And I actually called Sven up, who's this year, he's turning 100 years old
Really?
next year. And we're doing a big tribute, touring all over Europe. And my band was tributing Sven Asmussen, who played with, by the way, Duke Ellington, Benny Goodman, all those guys.
Nice.
So I called Sven up and said, hey, what do I do? Do you give lessons? How can I figure this out? And Sven said, no, I'm sorry, I don't teach. But you just got to listen to Stuff Smith, and then you'll
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So that was his
Smith.
remark, and I've kind of stayed in touch with Sven ever since.
I asked Slava this question as well. Did you listen to Bob Wills and people like that? To country western guys?
Oh, country western stuff? Not so much, not till later. I mean, I started getting into it when I moved to the
Yeah.
U.S., but over in Europe, it's a very slim
Sure.
scene over there.
Slim.
Yeah.
No pun intended. Now, Slim Pickens. Now, did you have that epiphany? Did you find Dinah one day, or all of a sudden hear Billy for the first time? Obviously, you did at one point for the first time.
I did.
Did it click?
I think it was when I was living in Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
And
It just keeps getting better.
I
Denver to
know,
Omaha.
I know. What can I say?
Lansing, Michigan
There
can't be
are
far
some
away.
Great jazz musicians
Sure.
based in Omaha.
Well, great
Wow.
blues.
And a lot
Yeah.
of these guys had lived in Kansas City, or they'd come from other
Sure.
places, and they played with everybody from Billie Holiday to Clark Terry. I mean, these were great musicians who ended up getting married and settling in Omaha. So I'm there, and I'm singing at that time a lot of funk and pop music. And this gentleman came into one of the clubs. His nickname was Big Daddy.
Yeah.
And he was about 300
Well,
pounds,
there's a
but he
coincidence.
was so amazing. He was a wonderful Hammond B3 player
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and had worked with all these greats years ago and had since retired. He came into a place where I was singing and heard me. And afterwards he said, "Did you know you're a wonderful jazz singer?" And I said,
Nope.
Not really. And
Yeah.
I didn't know what he meant by that.
Yeah.
He said, "It's how you improvise.
Yeah.
You have a great way of taking the melody and making it your own." And that was when I started listening to more jazz.
Now, by the time this show airs, you will have been long on your way, and the audience will still be applauding, by the way. Tell me about the show itself, the configuration on stage, who you're bringing with you, and what you're doing.
All right. Well, it's going to be, I brought my fiddle and my violin, depending on how you like to
The
call
strings.
it. The strings and stuff. And then we're going to have a wonderful pianist, Colin Hogan, who plays piano, also actually plays accordion. He's going to do that in a little bit. And then we got Sam Bevan on bass, and we got Eric Garland on drums.
Excellent.
And so that's the kind of the core of the group, quartet. And well, we're gonna mix it up, do some of Frank's stuff, and do one original maybe, and then also mix in some of. I've been doing lately this show called Mads Men. My name is Mads, so I love the show Mad Men, so we've kind of done some of the songs from the '60s and taken that into a show. So What a Wonderful World and Meet the Flintstones.
And you
and
do the
stuff.
Flintstones.
Yeah, we're gonna do.
I love the
we're gonna
Flintstones.
do Meet the Flintstones tonight,
That's right.
just
and
for you.
We guarantee a yabba dabba.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we talk about. That.
We just got to quit talking about these people playing and singing. Let's take a break, and we'll get them back, and we'll hear a little music. This is Jazz Tonight. Hi, Michael Jacobi here, executive producer of Jazz on the Plazz, a production of Los Gatos Music and Arts. People often ask me how can they help support us, and in doing so, help keep jazz alive. Well, a couple of ways. One, you could get a corporation and give us $500,000. Now, it was worth a shot. Or two, you could buy some reserved seats. You buy some of the merchandise. And this year, with our tribute to Frank Sinatra, there's some wonderful Fedora logoed wine glasses along with shirts. And best of all, you could either check out the gala with the 4 freshmen or buy a jazz card. Now, the Jazz card is just $100, a mere C note, and there's $700 worth of value on it. All right, you give me 1 minute and these glasses, and I'll tell you exactly what you get. All right, start the clock. Go to Willow Street. It's good for 1 free pizza and a side salad. Go to Main Street Burgers. Good for a free burger, fries, and soda. Nothing But Cakes. Good for buntinis. Go to Verge, the new restaurant at the Toll House, and get a free breakfast entree. Los Gatos Roasting Company. Free breakfast crepe and a large coffee. You can even get a horseback riding lesson at Bright Ranch in San Martin. Go to Rootstock, a sampler appetizer plate. At Skin Spirit, the new folks in town, it's good for 1 skin rejuvenating chemical peel. Jazz on the Plazz, a couple of VIP entries. Billy's Boston Chowder House, good for a free Boston Cioppino lunch. Classic Car Wash, a classic car wash. What else? Arthur Murray, 1 free dance lesson. Centonove, good for a free tiramisu. The Cats, a half a rack of ribs with a side. Chin Chin, free truffle fries. Gardino's, good for a free appetizer. And finally, Testarossa Winery, it gets you 2 passes for wine tasting and a couple of invites to an artesian wine cheese experience. $700 for just a $100 investment. Now it's your chance to help keep jazz alive and help the good folks at Los Gatos Music and Arts keep on keeping on. Come on. Welcome back to Jazz Tonight. Speaking of Sinatra, one of his iconic evergreens, if you will, was written by Sammy Cahn and Jimmy Van Heusen. The tune is Time After Time, the vocalist, Clairdee, and the accompanist, Mads Tolling. Tell you what, if Sinatra were alive, he'd be big fans of you guys. So let's have a little visit of the aforementioned Miles Davis with Mads Tolling.
Cool. Right on.
We're going to go off camera and talk Denver.
All right.
Very nice. Matt Stoller. Miles Davis, Blue and Green.
Exactly.
Lovely. Hey, folks want to find out more about your music, how to order it. You have a website?
I do. Clairdee.com. Clairdee is spelled Clairdee.
There's no space.
No space.
No, just
one
one
word.
name. One name, like
That's
Liza or Judy.
Yeah, keep it
That's the
simple.
whole deal. How about yours?
Mine is Mads Tolling at .com. So MADSTOLLING.com.
Terrific. A delight to have you guys here.
Thank
I
you
appreciate
so
that.
much.
That is Jazz Tonight. I'm going to have Mads play us out. Quick reminder, thanks to good folks at Direct Travel, excuse me, in the Disney Cruise Line. Go buy a jazz card and help keep jazz alive. Clairdee and I are going to sneak off and talk about the Broncos having won 2 Super Bowls.
Oh, yeah. Pretty good.
Only 2. Here's Mads Tolling.